Hey, Matt McLaughlin from Capital Strength here, and today I want to make a video to share with you the 7 habits for highly effective fat loss. Now, if you're like most people, you've probably spent some time on the internet researching the best methods to lose weight or burn fat or just really get in great shape. And you probably came away pretty frustrated or really confused because of all the contradictory information that's out there. Now, I've worked with hundreds of people, spent hundreds of hours researching and learning and practicing, and I found that there's 7 things that we can do on a daily basis over time that'll really produce excellent, effective fat loss results. And now I want to share them with you. So, to get started, the first most important habit for fat loss is establishing a calorie deficit. And the reason for this is that your body is not going to burn fat unless you give it a reason to. And that reason is pretty much it needs energy to function. So if we set your calories at a point where you're burning more than you're taking in, you're going to lose fat, you're going to lose weight. So the quick and dirty way to get this done is to estimate your calories based upon your body weight. I like to use a factor of between 10 and 12. Let's start at a higher number, so let's say 12 to estimate your calories. And so, for example, if you're 200 pounds, we're going to multiply that by 12 to get 2,400 for your daily calorie intake. If you're moderately active, this should put you in a slight calorie deficit. Now, after 10 days, if you don't lose any weight or see any results, we want to take about 10% out of that number. Also, if you already know that you're pretty sedentary, you don't move around a lot, starting a little bit lower at that 10 or 11 number might be better for you. Now, if after a few days you notice decrease in performance or well-being, then adding 10% calories back in is probably a good idea because we want to make sure we're doing this the right way, being healthy. Now, fat loss habit number 2 is getting enough protein in. Let's set your protein intake at 30% of calories. So what does that really mean? Well, let's take your calories that we established in habit number 1. So for example, if you're 200 pounds, that 2,400 calories multiplied by 0.3 is going to give you 30%. And that comes out to 720. So 720 calories from protein. Divide that number by 4, and that'll give you your grams of protein that you want to consume per day. Now, why is protein so important? Well, it keeps you full at a lower calorie point, which is really important for compliance on a diet. And it also helps your body spare muscle mass. If you go into a calorie deficit and you don't have enough protein, then your body's going to start breaking down muscle to use for energy, and we don't want that. We want to retain as much muscle and burn as much fat as possible, so that's why that protein becomes so important. All right, on to number 3. Fat loss habit number 3 is strength training at least 3 times per week. Now, I just touched on why protein was important to spare muscle mass. Now we got to give your body a reason to build or maintain that muscle, and we do that through strength training. And I'm talking about lifting weights, doing squats, bench press, overhead press, chin-ups, things that you can only do for about 30 to 60 seconds before having to take a break. And we also want to make sure we're incrementally progressing in those strength training exercises, adding weight over time, getting stronger. This is going to help us kick up our protein synthesis, which is another word for muscle growth. This is how we have that lean and tone look and burn pure body fat. So why 3 days per week on frequency? Well, that allows us to kind of give enough rest and recovery, but also re-stimulate that protein synthesis frequently enough to get really good results. So get those 3 times a week strength training in to optimize your fat loss. Now, number 4 habit for highly effective fat loss is getting enough activity in. And the way we're going to quantify that is with 10,000 steps each and every day. 10,000 steps is equivalent to about 90 minutes of continuous movement accumulated all throughout the day. And then also, it's about 5 miles. So if you're getting enough movement to cover 5 miles or 90 minutes throughout the day, then you're probably getting about 10,000 steps. Now, fat, we got to burn that fat, and this is how we're going to primarily do that. This activity is going to cause your metabolic rate to kick up, and that's what we're really after. So I really recommend investing in something like a Fitbit or other activity tracker or pedometer so you can hold yourself accountable, and it's really worth that investment. Now, fat loss habit number 5, getting enough fiber. This is probably one that's most overlooked by most people. Now, how do we get our fiber in? It's things from like vegetables, fruits, and legumes, also known as beans. The fiber is going to help keep your digestive health up and running correctly. It's going to fill you up at a much lower calorie point because fiber takes up the most space in your gut at the lowest level of calories. It's actually really shocking how much of a health impact and benefit and how much better you're going to feel if you get enough protein in. So let's get about a cup of vegetables or beans or a variety of fruits throughout the day to get you that 15 grams per day minimum fiber intake. Now, fat loss habit number 6, getting enough water, at least 64 ounces per day. Hydration is really, really important. If you're at least even 2% dehydrated, you'll start having negative performance and mental effects. And we want to look, feel, and perform at our best, so it's really easy to get enough water in. You just got to focus on drinking enough. I really recommend buying about a 32-ounce water bottle, like a nice one that's high quality and durable, something like a Nalgene. You can get that for less than $10 on Amazon. So get one of those, drink 2 of them a day, and you'll get your 64 ounces. Okay, guys, last, final, 7th habit for highly effective fat loss, and that's getting enough sleep. I want you to get a goal of at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night. And you're going to have to prioritize that sleep. And the reason it's so important is that it helps you recover and balance out your stresses in life. Stress is important, and any productive professional or well-to-do person is going to have to deal with a lot of it, and it's all about a balance. So getting that sleep is probably the most important thing. Some tips to get more sleep or more effective sleep is 1, setting a target time and a wake-up time so that you actually get those 7 to 8 hours in. Not having stimulants 8 hours prior to that target sleep time. Shutting off all screens or media or anything that gets your mind excited an hour before bedtime. Making sure that your sleeping environment is cool and dark, so getting some blackout shades can really help, or covering up all the LED lights that might be blinking throughout your room. Also, making sure that you have a bed and a pillow that you actually find comfortable. It's worth that investment. All right, guys, I hope these 7 habits for highly effective fat loss will help you. Make sure that you're doing them all together in conjunction because they work off of each other. And lastly, I want to close and remind you that fat loss and weight loss and dieting are all things that need to be cyclical in nature. We need to set like a time frame on it. We don't want to perpetually diet and starve ourselves because that's not healthy, and a lot of bad things can happen. So set a goal for about 4 to 12 weeks, depending on how much fat you want to lose. I recommend aiming for about a pound to a pound and a half, maybe 2 per week. And then after that time frame, reassessing where you are, how everything's going, if you're doing it right, and then kind of taking a maintenance break and eating a little bit more calories to kind of help your metabolism recuperate a little bit. All right, guys, I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a shout, and I'll see you in the gym.